$500 million, 16 years of development, the most revolutionary naval weapon since the aircraft carrier. And in December 2021, the US Navy just walked away from it all. While American admirals were filing away their electromagnetic railgun research, Chinese engineers in Wuhan were pulling all-nighters. Today, China's Navy is months away from deploying weapons that fire projectiles at 7 times the speed of sound. Weapons that can obliterate any target in seconds. Weapons that America invented, but China will master first. This isn't just military incompetence. This is the greatest strategic blunder in modern naval history, because while we abandoned the future of warfare, China seized it. They're now testing railguns that fire 120 consecutive shots without failure, while our technology sits in storage boxes. The same weapon that could have guaranteed American naval supremacy for the next 50 years is about to become China's ultimate advantage. What you're about to discover will shock you about how badly our leaders failed our military and our nation. The numbers alone should make every American furious. $500 million. That's what we spent developing the most game-changing naval weapon since gunpowder, only to throw it all away when we were on the verge of success. But the real tragedy isn't the money. It's what we handed to our greatest rival. If you're as outraged about this strategic disaster as we are, type yes in the comments and share your thoughts on America's abandoned advantage. Right now, at the People's Liberation Army Naval University of Engineering in Wuhan, Chinese scientists are celebrating breakthroughs that should have been ours. In May 2024, they achieved something that should terrify every American military planner. They fired 120 railgun projectiles in rapid succession without a single malfunction. While our engineers were updating their resumes, theirs were rewriting the rules of naval combat. Let's be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. A railgun isn't just another weapon. It's a revolution wrapped in electromagnetic coils. These systems use pure electrical energy to accelerate projectiles to speeds that make bullets look like they're crawling. We're talking Mach 7, over 5,300 miles per hour. A tungsten projectile fired at that velocity carries more kinetic energy than a tank shell at point-blank range. The implications are staggering. One railgun can fire projectiles that cost $25,000 each and hit with the force of cruise missiles that cost $1.4 million. It's not just about the money, it's about volume of fire. While an enemy ship launches one expensive missile, a railgun-equipped vessel can unleash dozens of hypervelocity projectiles. It's like bringing a machine gun to a single-shot duel. America didn't stumble into this technology by accident. Our Office of Naval Research launched the electromagnetic railgun program in 2005 with a clear mission: build the weapon that would dominate the seas for generations. Both BAE Systems and General Atomics are premier defense contractors threw their best minds at the challenge. For years, it looked like we were winning. Test after test at the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Dahlgren, Virginia proved the concept worked. High-speed cameras captured projectiles, screaming downrange at impossible velocities. Military leaders called it a warfighter game-changer that would give American ships unstoppable firepower. The future of naval combat was being written in American laboratories. But here's where the story takes its shocking turn. While American engineers were perfecting their prototypes, Chinese intelligence was watching everything. Every test, every specification, every breakthrough was being studied by teams in Beijing. But they weren't just copying. They were learning from our mistakes and building something better. Led by Rear Admiral Ma Waming, who became China's national hero for electromagnetic weapons, Chinese engineers took a completely different approach. Instead of trying to build the perfect system, they focused on building a working system. Instead of endless laboratory testing, they moved quickly to actual hardware. While we debated, they built. The timeline reveals the shocking truth about American strategic failure. In 2011, just 6 years after we started, China had their first railgun prototype. By 2014, they were conducting live-fire trials. Between 2015 and 2017, they calibrated their weapons for extended combat ranges. Then came the moment that should have sent shockwaves through the Pentagon, December 2017. when Chinese engineers successfully mounted an operational railgun on a naval vessel. Think about that devastating reality. China achieved in 12 years what America couldn't accomplish in 16. They went from zero to sea trials while we were still arguing about power requirements and barrel durability. The Type 0723 landing ship Hayangshan became the first warship in human history to carry an electromagnetic cannon. China had crossed the finish line while America was still debating the rules. Meanwhile, back in Washington, our leaders were finding excuses to quit. The railgun needed too much power, 25 megawatts per shot. The barrels wore out too quickly. Integration with existing ships would be complicated. Every technical challenge became a reason to retreat instead of a problem to solve. Chinese engineers faced the exact same challenges, but their response was completely different. Too much power. They built ships with 96 megawatt generation systems specifically designed for electromagnetic weapons. Barrel wear, they developed AI-monitored maintenance systems with 100,000 sensors that could predict and prevent failures. Integration problems, they designed their entire new fleet around railgun capabilities. This is where American thinking went catastrophically wrong. Instead of building new ships for new weapons, our leaders wanted new weapons for old ships. Instead of accepting that revolutionary technology requires revolutionary platforms, they demanded that railguns work with decades-old designs. When that proved impossible, they blamed the technology instead of the strategy. China had no such limitation. Their massive shipbuilding program was just beginning, and they designed every new vessel with electromagnetic weapons in mind. The Type 055 destroyer, displacing nearly 10,000 tons, was specifically engineered to carry multiple railguns. While American admirals worried about retrofitting old ships, Chinese admirals were building the future fleet. The contrast in national commitment became obvious during budget seasons. Year after year, Congress and Pentagon leaders trimmed railgun funding. Resources were shifted to safer, more conventional programs. Each budget cut sent the same message to our engineers and contractors. This technology isn't really important to America's future. China's budget told a different story entirely. Their railgun program received massive, sustained funding from the highest levels of government. When President Xi Jinping promised a world-class military by 2049, electromagnetic weapons were central to that vision. The technology wasn't just a military program. It was seen as driving innovations in transportation, space launch, and industrial applications. By 2018, American intelligence assessments confirmed our worst fears. China's naval railgun would be combat-ready by 2025. The weapon could strike targets 124 miles away at speeds up to 1.6 miles per second. More devastating, China planned to deploy these weapons across their rapidly expanding fleet, not just on experimental platforms. Here's where the strategic disaster becomes personal for every American. Our naval forces, the men and women who volunteer to defend our nation, were about to face enemies armed with weapons we invented but abandoned. The same technology that could have kept our sailors safe and our enemies at bay was being turned against us by our own strategic incompetence. American military leaders found themselves in an impossible position. Their railgun program was behind schedule and over budget. The technology that was supposed to guarantee American naval superiority was instead becoming a symbol of Chinese innovation and American failure. Something had to change, and unfortunately, our leaders chose surrender. The justification they offered was insulting to anyone who understands military strategy. Pentagon spokesman claimed that railguns solved the wrong problem. They argued that future naval combat would require longer ranges than railguns could provide. They suggested that hypersonic missiles were a better investment because they could strike targets thousands of miles away. This reasoning ignored basic military mathematics that Chinese strategists understood perfectly. Naval combat isn't just about maximum range, it's about sustained firepower, magazine depth, and cost effectiveness. A destroyer armed with railguns could fire continuously for hours, launching thousands of projectiles. The same ship, armed with cruise missiles, might empty its magazines in the first few minutes of combat. The economics were equally damning for the American position. Each railgun projectile costs $25,000 and travels at Mach 7. Each cruise missile costs $1.4 million and can be shot down or jammed. In a prolonged engagement, the side with railguns could fire 56 projectiles for the cost of one enemy missile. The mathematics of sustained combat heavily favored electromagnetic weapons. Chinese war planners weren't thinking about striking targets in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They were thinking about conflicts in the Taiwan Strait, the South China Sea, and other contested waters where opposing fleets would operate within railgun range. In those scenarios, the ability to overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer volume of hypervelocity fire could be decisive. When the Pentagon finally made its catastrophic decision in late 2021, the announcement was buried in budget documents like a shameful secret. The electromagnetic railgun program was officially terminated. After 16 years of development and over $500 million in taxpayer investment, America was abandoning revolutionary technology just when it was approaching success. The official justification was bureaucratic doublespeak designed to hide the magnitude of strategic failure. They cited fiscal constraints, combat system integration challenges, and the prospective technology maturation of other weapon concepts. They promised that railgun knowledge would be documented and preserved for potential future use, essentially admitting they were putting our military advantage in storage. China's response was swift and devastating. Instead of celebrating American retreat, they accelerated their own program. In May 2024, just 3 years after we quit, Chinese engineers conducted their most ambitious test yet. They fired a smart projectile 15 kilometers into the stratosphere at speeds exceeding Mach 5. Using artificial intelligence to correct flight path deviations in real time. Even when that particular test encountered problems, Chinese engineers treated it as a learning opportunity rather than a reason to quit. While American engineers were filing their research in government warehouses, Chinese teams were incorporating lessons learned and preparing for the next breakthrough. Their commitment to solving problems instead of abandoning them revealed everything about the difference in national character. The broader implications of America's strategic mistake extend far beyond railguns themselves. China's shipbuilding capacity now dwarfs ours, with the ability to construct naval vessels faster and cheaper than any nation in history. The People's Liberation Army Navy operates more than 370 combat vessels, making it numerically the largest fleet in the world. Pentagon projections show this growing to 435 ships by 2030. More ominously, China is building these ships with electromagnetic weapons as standard equipment. Their latest aircraft carrier features electromagnetic catapults derived from railgun research. The upcoming Type 076 amphibious assault ship will have similar systems. China has successfully integrated electromagnetic technology across their fleet, while America struggles to maintain ships built decades ago. The strategic balance in the Pacific has shifted in ways that should alarm every American. Chinese naval forces now regularly operate near our territories, including waters off Alaska. Their growing confidence stems directly from technological advantages that America once held exclusively but foolishly abandoned. Our naval engineers haven't given up entirely, but their current efforts reveal the magnitude of what we've lost. They're now focused on hypervelocity projectiles that can be fired from conventional 5-inch guns. These projectiles can reach Mach 3 speeds. Impressive compared to traditional shells, but pathetically slow compared to Mach 7 railgun rounds. It's a compromise solution that acknowledges America can't match Chinese electromagnetic capabilities with current technology. The irony cuts deep into American pride. We invented the fundamental technologies that make railguns possible. American universities conducted the pioneering research. American companies built the first working prototypes. American military leaders recognized the revolutionary potential before anyone else in the world, yet somehow we lost the race to deploy this technology. The reasons go beyond technical challenges or budget constraints. They reflect a fundamental decay in American strategic thinking and national commitment to maintaining military superiority. The Chinese success with railguns demonstrates the decisive advantage of sustained commitment over scattered effort. They didn't demand perfect systems before deployment. They built working systems and improved them through operational experience. They accepted early limitations while focusing relentlessly on long-term capability. American leaders demanded perfection before commitment. They wanted railguns that could integrate seamlessly with ships built for different technology. They wanted indefinite barrel life and zero maintenance requirement. When the technology couldn't meet these impossible standards immediately, they abandoned it entirely. This pattern of American strategic failure repeats across multiple critical technologies. We often lead in basic research and early development, then lose momentum when programs encounter inevitable technical challenges. Other nations, particularly China, focus on getting working systems deployed and improved through actual operational use. The consequences for American naval strategy are still unfolding, but early indicators are alarming. Future conflicts may pit American ships armed with conventional weapons against Chinese vessels equipped with electromagnetic cannons capable of overwhelming any defense. The cost advantage alone could prove decisive. China could fire dozens of railgun projectiles for the price of a single American cruise missile. Perhaps most disturbing is what this debacle reveals about American strategic patience. Military technologies typically require decades of development before reaching full potential. Nuclear weapons faced massive technical hurdles in their early years. Jet engines seemed impractical to many observers. Satellite systems were dismissed as science fiction until they became reality. The key to American success in these earlier programs was maintaining commitment through difficult periods until breakthroughs occurred. The country that once committed to landing on the moon within a decade now struggles to maintain weapons programs for more than a few budget cycles. America's abandonment of railgun development suggests a troubling transformation in national character. Short-term thinking has replaced the long-term vision that once made American military technology the standard for the world. Political leaders focus on the next election rather than the next generation of threats. China's approach offers a stark contrast to American strategic drift. Their leaders think in terms of decades and centuries rather than news cycles and quarterly reports. When they commit to developing a technology like electromagnetic weapons, they maintain that commitment through technical setbacks, budget pressures, and leadership changes. This patience is becoming China's decisive strategic advantage. While American programs rise and fall with political wins, Chinese programs proceed with methodical determination. The railgun story perfectly illustrates how sustained effort defeats superior starting position when commitment wavers. The industrial implications compound the strategic disaster. Chinese shipyards can build vessels faster and cheaper than American facilities, partly because their entire industrial base is optimized for rapid military production. American shipbuilding has been constrained by decades of consolidation and reduced capacity. These industrial advantages create a vicious cycle for American naval strategy. China can afford to build experimental ships for testing new technologies because construction costs are manageable. America must carefully consider every hull because replacement costs are astronomical. This creates conservative thinking that inhibits innovation and risk-taking. Looking toward future conflicts, the implications extend beyond naval warfare into space, missile defense, and even civilian application. Railgun technology has potential applications in satellite launch systems, asteroid defense, and high-speed transportation. China's continued development gives them advantages across multiple domains, while America focuses on increasingly narrow military application. The fundamental question facing American strategy is whether we can learn from this massive mistake before it's too late. Railgun technology continues advancing rapidly. Future developments may create new opportunities for American re-entry into electromagnetic weapons. But catching up will require the kind of sustained commitment that our leaders have repeatedly proven incapable of maintaining. Some defense experts argue that America should focus on remaining technological advantages rather than trying to match Chinese electromagnetic weapons. They point to artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and advanced materials as potential paths to military superiority that don't require massive industrial investments. This argument fundamentally misunderstands how military technological competition actually works. No single innovation provides lasting advantage in modern warfare. Success requires continuous improvement across multiple domains simultaneously. By abandoning railguns, America has surrendered one critical path to future superiority and placed impossible pressure on other programs to deliver decisive advantages. The human cost of this strategic disaster may not become apparent for years or decades. But if American naval forces ever face Chinese ships armed with operational railguns, the consequences of walking away from this technology will become tragically clear. Military history overflows with examples of nations that lost wars because they underestimated emerging technologies or abandoned promising developments too early. China's railgun success represents far more than technological achievement. It demonstrates national will and strategic vision operating at the highest levels. While America debates and delays, China builds and deploys. This fundamental difference in approach may well determine which nation controls the world's oceans for the remainder of this century. The story of America's abandoned railgun program should serve as a permanent warning about the catastrophic dangers of short-term thinking in long-term strategic competition. Military superiority isn't maintained through individual programs or isolated innovations. It requires sustained commitment to technological development, even when progress seems slow or uncertain. Our military deserves better leadership than this. The men and women who volunteer to defend America have earned the right to the most advanced weapons our nation can produce. They shouldn't be forced to fight tomorrow's wars with yesterday's technology because today's leaders lack the courage to see revolutionary programs through their difficult development phases. The abandonment of America's railgun program stands as one of the most shocking strategic mistakes in our nation's military history. We possessed the technology, the resources, and the expertise to dominate naval warfare for generations. Instead, we handed that advantage to our greatest rival through sheer lack of commitment and strategic vision. China's continued advancement in electromagnetic weapons should terrify every American who understands what's at stake. They've proven that patient, sustained investment in revolutionary technology can overcome any initial disadvantage. Their railgun program may seem limited today, but they're building the foundation that could dominate the seas for decades to come. This isn't just about one weapon system, it's about American strategic thinking in an age of great power competition. Our enemies don't abandon promising technologies when they encounter technical challenges. They double down, commit more resources, and push through obstacles until they achieve breakthrough capabilities. The choice facing America is stark and urgent. We can recommit to revolutionary military technologies with the patience and resources needed for success. Or we can continue watching other nations claim advantages that should belong to the free world. The railgun disaster shows exactly what happens when we choose retreat over resolve. Our Navy's brave sailors deserve better than fighting future battles with inferior weapons because their leaders lacked the strategic courage to maintain America's technological edge. The price of this mistake will be measured not just in dollars, but potentially in American lives and lost strategic influence around the globe. If this investigation into America's greatest naval strategic mistake opened your eyes to what our leaders have cost us, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more analysis of the critical challenges facing our military. The future of American naval superiority hangs in the balance, and it will take informed citizens demanding accountability to ensure we never repeat such devastating strategic failures.